Hey there, welcome. My name's TimeTravelPenguin, and welcome to the first episode of Behind the Streams, the show where we bring to you people from the Twitch community, gamers and speedrunners, streamers, that kind of thing. And we get to express to you the kinds of things they do and kind of a different perspective on just the streamer as a whole. So they're not behind the stream. You see them playing a game. You get to see them for who they are. So today I've got a speedrunner and full-time Twitch streamer, 360Chrism. Hey, how you going, Chris?
Hey, what's up, man? I'm doing good.
So tell us about yourself. So how long have you been doing Twitch streaming?
I started streaming in 2013, just a few times a week as a hobby. And I've been streaming as a partner on Twitch since early 2014. And streaming full-time since 2015.
So you do speedruns as well as casual streams, do you not?
Yes. It's like a big mix. Sometimes more speedruns, sometimes more casual.
Yeah, I've popped in a few times in the last week, and you do a few different things as well. And I went and did my research, and you've got a number of world records. Some of the ones that I found were in Mario Party. You got 1, 3, 6, and 8. You got Super Mario 64, you got the VC world record for 0 and 1 star. You got a world record in Pikmin 3 and in Pokemon Pinball, Ruby and Sapphire. So, you've been doing speedrunning. How long have you been doing speedrunning for?
I started speedrunning like 3 months after I started streaming. So, also almost like 4.5 years now.
See, wow, that's a long time, and it's a lot to do in that time. There's a lot of streamers I watch, and, some of them have been streaming for about 4 years, and, some of them have hundreds of runs, and some of them don't. It's very interesting to see the vast difference in...
If you spend so much time streaming and speedrunning, you can't just play one game. You would go nuts.
Oh, of course.
No, like, especially if you're streaming full-time, 8 hours a day of the same game for, like, years in a row, that would just make you crazy.
Yes, yeah, I understand. I mean, I'm not some crazy speedrunner that has world records or anything, but like I've done speedruns in Super Mario 64 and in Super Mario Odyssey, and it takes a lot of time to you start off at a level where you're just competing with yourself. You go, oh look, Super Mario 64. I think if the pro league for 16 star in Super Mario 64 is about anything less than 20 minutes. And I remember my first speedrun was about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
About 40 minutes long. And then the second one was 30 minutes. And then that's where I was stuck. I couldn't beat the 30-minute mark. But then after a while, you get better and you start chiseling it down. So in your opinion, how long does it normally take when you pick up a new game to break through to a point where you think you're, amongst the quote-unquote pros of that category?
You need to, if it's a game that's movement-based, you need to play a bunch to get a feel for the controls. And it's depending on how long the speedrun is, it also takes longer to get used to that because, for example, Mario Odyssey, any percent, it's decently short. It's like an hour long, an hour, 20 minutes or so.
Yes.
And you play a lot, you make so many mistakes because you're not used to the movement yet. And the more you play, the more you just get used to it, and you can experiment around without losing time. And I don't know, I usually start a run, I just jump into it without preparation, and then do that a couple times to get a feel for it. And then once you're at that point, when you're able to control Mario, I look into videos of strats and some more difficult things that I might need to practice for a little bit. And then you gotta all piece it together into one speedrun while you're streaming.
Yeah, it's kind of, you gotta try and do everything at once until the point, you eventually do it so many times, it's second nature. Yeah. So how did you get into speedrunning, in general?
I found Twitch in 2012 through, there was a bunch of streaming websites. There wasn't just one major one like Twitch, and eventually I ended up on Twitch watching League of Legends, I think,
Mm.
like a tournament. And I went to the front page of Twitch and I saw at the bottom popular games. It was Super Mario 64 was top 5
Oh yeah.
amongst like League of Legends, World of Warcraft, I don't know, Counter-Strike, like all these big games, right?
Yeah.
And so I clicked on Mario 64 because I love these old games. I didn't think anyone would stream those, and I found someone speedrunning Super Mario 64 there for 2,000 viewers, and I was
Wow.
I've never seen it before, and I watched.
Do
I
you
was
remember who that
amazed
was?
by all these strats and how fast you can play the game.
Jeez.
So eventually, after I started streaming, I had to like try it myself too.
Yeah, that's very similar to a lot of, like even my own experiences with that is, um, pretty much the same thing. When I first joined Twitch, I didn't have anyone. I didn't have anyone who was on the platform or know about the platform in general. I just knew it was a place people watch people play video games, and so I actually went on and I started clicking on random games, and eventually it was the same thing. I was thinking, one of the games I always wanted to play, but my old computer couldn't handle, was Super Mario 64 because I had a really old laptop, and I was like, I wonder, like, this was a game I used to play when I was a kid, and I don't remember it. I wonder if anyone's playing it. And I found someone playing it, and it was a guy named Spaceman1774, and he was doing some speedruns with Pants and another guy called Spookus. I think you might know Pants.
I know all three of them.
Oh, you know all three of them? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I was like watching them, and they got me into speedrunning, and then I met other crazy streamers, and I got into speedrunning as a whole, and I started to understand just how complex of a thing it is, and how competitive, well, not necessarily competitive, because it's also a non-competitive thing as well. But yeah, it's very interesting to see how different people can get into it. Like, some people get into it through, different conventions and things, such as AGDQ, or SGDQ, or the other European ones, etc. And you're actually in an upcoming stream on the is it AGDQ or SGDQ that's coming up in a few months? SGDQ. So what are you running there?
SGDQ is coming up, and I'm running Pikmin 3 any percent. So beat the game as fast as possible, Pikmin 3.
So what is the approximate time for that?
It's just under an hour usually. My PB is 52 minutes. So I gave them an hour estimate. Hopefully I can beat that.
Hopefully. I'm sure you'll blow it away.
Hope so, yeah.
I'll try and tune in. I love watching the GDQs, but yeah, I love watching the different games. There's always a game that I've never seen run before, and you just sit down, and then there's always that one thing they do. It always blows me away. So how many times have you been at a GDQ playing speedrunning?
I've gone to every single GDQ since SGDQ 2014. There's always 2 GDQs a year. SGDQ in summer and AGDQ in winter.
Yep.
And I've played Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario 64, Super Mario Galaxy twice.
Oh, yeah.
And a Super Mario 64 ROM hack. So I did 5 runs total, and this is my 6th one coming up. Oh,
wow. That's a lot. It's always impressive to see someone be able to run a lot of games. You've actually run more than 40 games that's not even categories, that's just the games themselves. Yeah, and I was wondering like what personally gets you interested in a speedrun? Is it the genre, like, platformers, or other types of speed games, or would it be like a game series such as Nintendo games or Mario games, things like that?
I started with Mario 64, and because I like Mario so much and my viewers enjoyed watching Mario, the natural thing was to try them all out. So I started running Sunshine right after, and then Galaxy 2. So I just went through the whole Mario series at first, and then eventually I just started over and went through other games I liked as a kid. For example, the Pokemon series, the Pikmin games. And
Just
not
you just
not
went on from
often
there.
do I see a game outside of these series that really interests me. But I
Mm-hmm.
like a good example of another game that just hooked me once I played it was I didn't even start speedrunning this yet, but I really plan on Refunked. Not sure if
Mm-hmm.
you heard of it. It's a
It sounds
first
familiar.
person platformer,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just such a pretty game, and first person platforming, kind of like Mirror's Edge,
Yep.
and the music's just good, and it's really short. It's a very short speedrun, like 2 to 5 minutes,
Mm.
but
Well, they're
that's
always the
something I
most
really want to get
competitive
into.
runs. Yeah, it's interesting to see how uh, like the competition within a speedrunning community evolves. You get games that start off as popular games such as Super Mario Odyssey. I've been monitoring the leaderboard for that game since the first week it came out. Like I've got all the tables and the speedrun times, and I've graphed it all, and it's actually quite interesting to see how that popularity of that game, that one game itself, has exponentially changed. It started out with, I think, 300 or 400 people, and now it's over 2,000, I think, people who run that game. And I think it's interesting when one person picks up a game that isn't as popular, and then everyone will want to play that game because they've seen just how different that kind of run is. Because you might have viewers who are used to seeing, specific platformers, but then there'll be a unique trait that might be, it might be a unique skill that that game has for the protagonist. And then they'll say, you know what, that's a very broken skill, and that's what gets people involved. And I think that's very interesting to see how the change and growth of the community speedrun changes. There was another game I was looking into fairly recently that it blew up. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, but one of my friends over Discord, they were. Oh, no, I remember. It was it
Was
was
it
Super
Celeste?
Mario.
Oh,
No, Celeste was another one of those games that kind of started not big, but it was popular to start with, and then interestingly, the Tool Sister speedrun came out, and that gained it a little bit more traction. And although Tool Sister speedruns are the other side of speedrunning, do have an impact on the community, it was interesting to see just how Celeste, that side of it, affected it. But no, the game I was thinking about was Super Mario 3D Land,
mm-hmm.
uh, the DS game. And I know there was a few people that ran it probably about a year ago. It was only about, I don't know, 5 or 6 people that had run it, and I was interested in learning it for myself to speedrun, but I was unable to submit to the leaderboards because the guy who was on there wasn't responsive. He wasn't moderating the boards for whatever reason. So I contacted the mods, and I got the mods at speedrun.com, and I got into a position where I was able to moderate that page, and I cleaned it up, I tidied it up, and from that alone, just making the board usable. Nowadays, there's a ton of people who have at least run that game once, and now Cosmic play it. I forget the name of the other runners, but there's like 3 or 4 other people who run that game regularly, and it's always nice to see that when there's that one change in a game, it just changes the whole dynamic of the community, and the community gets really involved in like the speedrun as a whole.
Sometimes you just need to give it a spark, some kind of interesting. You gotta make it easy for people. People aren't gonna go out of their way to make something work because they're lazy.
Yeah, well, absolutely. There's always that, and there's the general interest. I think it's interesting when I'm very picky when it comes to games in general, and when it comes to speedrunning, I like to speedrun games with more interesting mechanics than anything. Hence, I don't really speedrun a lot of games, but there was another game, I saw it on Reddit maybe a couple of months ago. I don't really remember, but it was a new glitch or mechanic that came out. Oh, it might have been a ROM hack. I don't remember, but it was a new mechanic that was found, a new glitch, and afterwards it was just a ton more people were breaking the game. Not necessarily speedrunning it, but like there was a lot more
Yeah,
community
that
involvement.
the same happened with Super Mario Sunshine back in the day.
Yeah.
Sunshine already had a bunch of like runners,
Hmm.
but then this like very major glitch was found where you could skip one of the more boring levels. Gelato
Oh
skip
yeah.
was found,
Yes.
and as soon
Yep.
as Gelato skip was found, it like blew up across the community, and so many people got interested in running the game, and it went from only like 100 runners to over 1,500 now as well. I'm pretty sure.
Ugh, it's insane. I mean, I'm pretty sure there was recently another uh, glitch found within the last year, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong. There's too many games to keep up with, but Super Mario Sunshine is one of those games that there's just so many glitches and skips. It's amazing to see the amount of work that the community's put into that.
If a lot of people speedrun a game and they are happy with the time they got or too frustrated to continue, and then there's a new skip found that saves extra time and which makes it easy again for them to PB, that's also kind of motivation to like make them start running again. And then because of that and people watching them, there might be more people that want to try speedrunning it. So it's if there's something that's found, it's always like reviving like a speed game.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, I love seeing it when you get a dead game and it becomes very popular overnight, or the reverse. You get a popular game that starts off popular and it kind of dulls down. It's a lot rarer for that to happen, but unfortunately, it does happen. So, on the topic of communities, though, so you have being a full-time Twitch streamer, you have a community of your own. You have what 90,000 followers on Twitch, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what as a community as a whole, like how does the community, I guess, how do you see them as a part of your job, your career? So, do you see them as, I guess, just interactive viewers, or are they more of like an extension of who you are as a professional entertainer?
Well, I see other speedrun streamers as friends mostly,
Mm-hmm.
and people that watch my stream. I mean, obviously they're really important. It's like you mentioned, it's kind of like family, where
Yeah.
I spend hours with them every day. I see the same names every day. I see new names every day, and it's just nice to go back. That's why I like streaming so much, because if I wasn't, whenever I like not like whenever I'm not streaming, I get kind of bored because I just want to like talk with people. So
Yeah.
the whole having like viewers in the chat is so
Mm-hmm.
nice, and I that's one of my favorite things about it. And the speedrun viewers, people that are also interested in like older games,
Yep.
or watching the same game over and over again, they seem all really chill, and I really like
Yeah.
the way my community has been. Yeah.
It's always interesting to see. I love the atmosphere around a tight community. Being that I'm not able to be online a lot myself, I only hang out in primarily one or two Twitch streams. I don't have a lot of time or am around to see a lot of streamers. I used to watch you when I first started Twitch, and that was about 4 years ago. You were one of the people I used to watch. I wasn't very active around then. I was very much a lurker. And nowadays it's just I don't have a lot of time to. You stream for me very late at night or very early in the morning. So it's, one of those things that can't be helped, but I like the idea of a tight community, because Twitch is I've had this topic with people before. Twitch is a place which isn't just like a Facebook. You can type and interact with people, but it's actually being a part of someone else's circle. You're not just there commenting and liking. You're actually sharing the moment with someone, and I think as a streamer, although I stream on occasions, very rarely, but I get some of my more closer friends come and join in, and we'll just poke, we'll play together, we'll do whatever, and mostly it's just us playing, and it's not very much chat, communication, but it's just us. Like, we'll be in calls and things. But I've always liked how Twitch, whether it be by the friends you make or the new people you meet, they're always so accepting and happy to meet new people. They're not like other places on the internet where they're very judgmental and, oh, you're wrong because of this and I'm right because I've been here longer. It's more, I've been here a long time, so let me tell you everything I can about this streamer. And I think that's very unique to Twitch. Obviously Twitch isn't the only website like that, but having a community is, as you said, is a family of people who get to spend the same amount of time every single day together for years. I've been on for a while and I've been watching the same people for about 4 years.
It's a personal experience.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. Like, there's people who obviously come and go. A lot of Twitch streamers come and go. A lot of people in the community come and go. But there's still 1 or 2 people, 3 or 4 people who are from, the first day you ever go to that chat, and they're the first person that say hello to you.
Yeah.
And then, you still share the same, connection to both them and the streamer. I've always, it's very interesting to see how the community affects a Twitch streamer, because I always like to think about that when I watch someone new, because you see a lot of those big streamers with thousands of views, and I always wonder how they're able to connect with their community, because speedrunners being a niche thing, you get a couple hundred, maybe 1,000, 2,000. I think 2,000 is the most I've seen on a speedrunner, and it's amazing to see how they're able to interact and keep that back and forth between the community. And being streamers, having a couple of hundred, you might have 100 people or less in chat being active, and I don't know how bigger non-speedrunning, like people who play more competitive games like esports and things, how they're able to keep that community back and forth.
I mean, it's not always their focus. When esports people get paid by their organization, and they stream their gameplay and people watch because of their skill mostly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for speedrunning, it's like a mix. People get interested in the skill and stay for the person, and you start liking the person, and then you'll start watching other games this person plays, even though that's not what you originally watch them for.
Yeah, absolutely. You get to a point where you start to think that you can watch this person who you've been watching speedrun for years and years and years, and then they'll pick up an MMO, and even if you're not an MMO player, you'll just sit there and go, I like this guy, so I'm going to watch him anyway.
Yeah, it's like, that's what makes a good streamer. If you're able to play other games than you're known for and still have an audience, like, that's the way to go.
Yeah. So one of the things I was wanting to ask as well was being a speedrunner yourself, you pick up new games. Before you said we talked about the different kinds of games you might pick up, games that interest you. But how long would you normally spend on a game before you think, this is enough for now, or this is enough maybe forever, depending on the person? But like, how long would you normally spend on a game? Would it be like, I know some people say, once I get into the top 10, I'm happy, I'm done. Or is it, what to you, what makes you think this is enough for now, let's do something else for a little bit?
Um, I always set myself goals. I start running a game, and if I think the run I just finished was good, I can move on to another category or learn more and try harder. Or I just call it and play something else.
Right.
Aiming at a leaderboard rank, like, I don't know, first place, top 10 or whatever, is not a good way to handle it, in my opinion. Because if you want to get top 10 in, I don't know, Mario Party, that's not going to take you very long. And your run might still be trash.
Yeah.
And you're still top 10. But if you want to get like top 10 of Super Mario Odyssey, that'll require a lot of work.
A lot of
most
work,
people
yeah.
most people in the top 10 of Odyssey, they only play Odyssey and nothing else. Because they spend all their focus on that one game. So if I wanted to get to the top 10 of Odyssey, I would have to drop everything else I'm playing, mostly, and start focusing on that one game so I don't get rusty. So I keep improving my time until I'm at that goal time.
So is that?
And that's not really my focus. I just focus on a good run, but not the perfect run.
So how long did it take you to get to the point where you were able to start getting world records in the games? You know, I've got written down on my little notepad, it says you've got Mario Party, you got 1, 3, 6, and 8, Super Mario 64 and the virtual consoles.
I don't like the term world record really much. I could have world record in a game and still don't like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
just because it's first place doesn't mean it's a good run. There's many runs that are not first place that I'm proud of. That I'm really happy with.
What are some examples of that?
Well, the Mario 64 1-star PB is I'm really proud of, and my back in the day, my Mario Sunshine PB was pretty good. Now new strats have been found, a new movement that I haven't been doing. I'm really proud of my Super Mario Galaxy PB. I think my Pikmin 3 any% PB is really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at that as one of them.
My Mario Party 8 any% PB or Star Battle Arena PB, I think is really good, because that took a lot of frustration to get to that point. And some of them happen to be first place and some of them not. It's not really important to me.
Yeah, so I agree with what you said about, world records. They can be bad, and not necessarily looking to being in the top 10 or, a place goal, because I've seen speedrunners who play games that are literally almost everything is RNG. So you could have the quickest reaction time. You can know how the game works on a fundamental level by knowing the code. You can know anything, but you just have to keep playing it to get that good RNG, and you can get a world record, and then the very next day, someone who doesn't understand the game's mechanics anywhere near as good as you could easily beat it just by getting better RNG, as an example. And as you said, there's new strats and things that can happen. So I agree. I am very much one for personal goals. And for me, I'm not a competitive speedrunner. I don't really care about places. But yeah, I think there's a clear distinction between people who speedrun it as like their own single game. That's their game they run, and they want to get the world record.
That's fine. That's fine. That's a good motivation too.
And it's an even better. The thing that usually drives that, I think, is they want to not. They don't care per se about having the world record. They just want to minimize the time that the game takes. It's like a tool-assisted speedrun, I guess, where the whole point of it is to be as quick as possible, and that's still the point of a speedrun. And I think that the people who really want to do that, it's very impressive with the Super Mario Bros. Series. Cosmic coming out and getting the world record a few months back, and is still saving time off all of the other games in, I guess you could call it the series. And I think it is, to him, it's not necessarily about having the place. It's about saving the time itself.
Yeah, the Super Mario Bros. 1 speedrunners, they're working all together. They want to get the time down in that game. It's like they're all working on a group project to
Yeah.
beat Mario Bros. The fastest.
Yeah, and
In
I think
speedrunning in general, when there's new strats found, no one ever, as far as I know, hides strats from someone else. It's not
no,
like that.
absolutely.
Everyone keeps sharing, like, we found this new strat that saves time. Everyone should check it out.
Yeah, I know that with, I think it's Super Mario Bros. 1, there, Cosmic does, the strats he did to get the world record, and then there's other runners who do slightly different strats that are a little bit harder, but they're a lot less consistent, and that's what got them their place on the leaderboard. And I think having those two different people, who one of them has done all of the safest strats and nailed them all, but then, second place might be they've done some riskier strats, but they save a lot more time and they somehow pulled it off. And when, now it's I think Super Mario Bros. Is at a point where the few, fractions of a second they can save comes down to these riskier strats being implemented into the main, into the world record, I guess you could say. It's kind of, you have to add things to make it better.
It's at that point where it's not really luck based. The more you play, the better you get, but it's still the odds of you pulling off all these risky strats in the same run are so low, and they keep trying.
Yeah, it's some of the things I remember. Like, when I think about that, I think about the was it Summoning Salt, or was it Summoning Salt who did the video on one of the levels in Super Mario Bros. The breakdown. No, it just kind of like showed the different strats that we use in the history that happened, like the history of that level as a whole, and the amount of glitches and things, and how fine and precision it is. It's like, if you're one frame to the left, it won't work. If you go one frame to the right, too far to the right, it won't work. It's like everything has to be perfect. And it's insane to see those people play on almost a TAS level. I've seen the side by side of the human versus the TAS, and it's insane. Like, the amount of years you've got to put into a game like that. Like, Super Mario 64 is another example. When you start looking at I like to think of the 120 star run, because there's more room for error per se, but at the same time, each world record is kind of like an improvement from the last. And I guess you got to get to a point where you've done it so many times that your muscle memory is going to be spot on. It's going to be almost perfect.
Yeah.
There's not going to be any mistakes from, the typical the things that most other runners would do. But yeah, that's speedrunning as a whole is a very interesting mix of community interaction, because everyone's got to work together to kind of build up on these things and actually implementing those ideas. It's kind of like a school project, as you say. It's like a project everyone works together with.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about today. So thank you for sitting down with me and talk about a little bit about yourself and about speedrunning as a whole. I really appreciate you coming on. And thank you everyone who watched. My name's TimeTravelPenguin, and I'll see you on the next episode. I just want to say thank you again to 360Chrism for giving me this chance to do the very first episode of the Behind the Streams podcast. If you liked him, be sure to check him out over on twitch.tv/360Chrism. If you liked more of this kind of content, feel free to subscribe so that you can see more streamers in the future.